Good morning and welcome to, the original Loretta Brown Show. Radio to open the heart, heal the soul, and awaken the sleepy conscious.
The sleepy coughing dragon over here.
I know.
Not breathing fire yet.
I was trying to get the Seattle morning
sludge
out of my...
We're a little under the weather, overcast, but it'll burn off.
Some people have that marine thing. We don't have that.
Yeah, like LA area, Santa Monica.
Yeah.
A friend of mine lives there, and it's like clockwork.
Yeah.
12:31, boom, it's gone.
Boom, it's gone.
Just moves right on
Yeah.
it.
Sometimes my sister lives down in San Diego, and if you fly down there, it's crazy. Sometimes you can't land. You can't
see
take
anything.
off. It's like it's San Diego.
How do they fly a plane into that?
I don't know.
You're so smart.
I know. They are smart.
That's why I'm not a pilot.
I know. Me
I
too.
operate something else.
Yes, you do. You look like you have the command center for
I kind of did.
the spacecraft.
Yeah. And I'm going to add floor director to my job title because when I was doing, my handwork over here on the board, I'm actually pointing to the camera too. So you know which camera to smile to
because I'm always
we're
smiling
live.
at the wrong camera. Hello, all my lovely
Do a
listening
lot, do a
audience.
lot.
I know. I dressed up just for you this
You
morning.
look fabulous.
I know. Thank you. I do.
Thank you. I just threw this together.
My headphones are part of my decor.
Been up since 4 a.m.
I
just threw this together. Yeah, right. Yeah, I can see that.
It's so true. It is true.
Are you talking about me or you?
I know, both of us. And,
Okay.
I can see
It's true.
you worked really hard on your hair.
Totally.
And your facial hair. My
All my
facial hair
stubble.
gets in the way of, never mind. Not going to go there.
Shh.
Sorry.
Tell
Shh.
everybody that.
Anyway, I hope we're not too much for you this morning.
Or not enough.
It's going to get better or worse, whichever way you want to look at it. But thanks so much for tuning in. I am the owner of Reiki Oasis, located right here in the greater Seattle area. We're in our 23rd year in business. That is amazing miracle right there. And you can find out more about me at ReikiOasis.com or thelorettabrown.show.com. Be sure to check out all the classes. We have a Reiki Master class this coming Saturday. And you can sign up at schedule.reikioasis.com. And if you want more information, just contact me. We are a listener-supported show. Thank you to all of my Patreons and patrons at patreon.com/The Loretta Brown Show. And I'm going to kind of go through my opening remarks quickly because I want to bring my guest on because she's got a lot.
Yeah, we've got
to
big
say.
talent in the wings here over here.
Yeah, we do. We do.
She's like, what? Who are we talking about?
I know.
She's
So
amazing.
you're going to have to stick around because a little cliffhanger might, keep you tuned in.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She is amazing. It's just like us.
Really, she's amazing.
I know. She's amazing. So I've been on Volcano Watch a little bit. I know that Pele's been blowing her stack and since early last month. And there's a lot of other active volcanoes. So Earth Watch might be a better thing to say.
Would you consider like Madame Pele? Could you say that?
Madame Pele.
Okay.
And
Sounds very
Madame
chic.
Pele, yeah. And she, she's destroyed somewhere around 600 to 700 homes.
Yeah, you don't want to piss her off.
No, at least 2 communities and 5,000 acres. And I was looking at, my daughter lives on the Big Island. And so I was looking at these videos of the lava flow, and it is a fast-moving river. It's the most amazing thing that you've ever seen. But a while back, I had the world-famous Egyptologist, Dr. Carmen Bolter, on my show, and she indicated to me that Mauna Kea, the big, huge mountain on the big island of Hawaii, right? And, of course, that island is actually made up of 5 volcanoes, and Pele blowing is just one of them. But she indicated that there was a direct line through the middle of the earth from that mountain in Hawaii to the Great Pyramids on Giza. And there's a very powerful divine, feminine, masculine connection with ancient dragon and dragon ley lines. And so why am I bringing this up? Because I will be helping to host a trip to Egypt, October 25th to November 8th. We're going to be going to do some special work at the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid, and it actually has something to do with those ley lines. So it's a magical trip. I'm only taking 11 people with me. The trip is about half full, and I haven't even advertised it yet. I will also be going with Araya Anra, the Dragon Lady. And if you'd like to be one of our co-travelers and have the experience of a lifetime, please contact me directly, ASAP, even right now, even today. And you can send me a little email. Send it to Loretta at ReikiOasis.com. But don't wait. Don't delay. And if you're feeling a little palm sweaty, a little, oh my goodness, what did she just say? Egypt? What is she talking about? I think that could be me. This is sometimes a divine appointment. So follow through on it. Find out what happens. We'd love to have you go on our magical, amazing healing trip with us, floating up and down the Nile on a private boat, eating together lovely food, doing music, dancing, chanting, meditations, private sessions. That's the way it is. We do it top notch. And I just want to mention astrology a little bit. We've entered the summer of retrogrades from June 26th to August 27th. We will have planets going retrograde to include Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, Mars, Neptune, Uranus, and Mercury. And in case you don't know the names of all the planets, the only ones I didn't mention were Venus, and she's going to go retrograde later in the year. And, of course, Earth, we're traveling on it. So I don't know if we're retrograde, forward, or backwards. I was talking to my guest just before we got on the air, and, Merlin used to say we live life backwards. It goes backwards. That's what happens. Everything goes the wrong way. And so for this retrograde season, expect a huge slowdown, a look back, a revisit, and an opportunity to get it cleaned up and create something new and hopefully better. I'm going to have my astrologer friend Jen Kosh on the show next week. She's going to talk a lot about this, so I'm not going to go into it. But I do just want to kind of put a little cautionary tone out there. Mars retrograde started June 26th. It's there all summer. And Mars, of course, is that planet that represents battle and war.
Wait. It started 2 days ago, and it's going to last all summer?
Yeah.
Great.
I know.
Why you got to give it to me now?
Well, I'm just telling you.
You told me, like, afterward.
Turn on
we just finished. I'd have been like, great. Didn't experience any of it, or all of it. All right, I'm prepared now. Thank you.
Well... exhale, because it doesn't have to be bad.
Okay.
But it might bring some stuff up, and so keep your fan on. Cool yourself down. Jump around. I recommend a lot of physical activity because, if we get that energy locked up in our bodies, it can cause a lot of frustration and
hit a boiling point.
Yeah. Love versus war. That kind of
boy.
thing. Which way am I going to go?
Oh, man.
Right. And then, of course, we have Venus opposite Mars right now, and Venus is love, and Mars is war. And so,
all right.
Just be a little bit careful. We also, yesterday and going in today, we have a full moon in Capricorn, and it does feel a little heavy. And I posted something, and I basically said, when things get heavy, please remember you are light. You are a being of light at your very core and at your very center, and you can actually use that contrast in your favor to help you process through some of that stuff. And, of course, if you need help, reach out for it. Don't isolate yourself during this time. Don't be like the sky is falling. Pay attention, ground yourself, reach up, and there's a balance in all of that. In Vedic astrology, because some of my listeners have written me and told me they love it when I mention Vedic astrology, but this full moon is appearing in the area of the sky known as Mula, the root star, and it has a dark but potent energy that may bring unresolved core wounds to the surface. Mula is also known as the foundation star, and it can sever our unconscious attachments to pain and suffering and allow us to reconnect with the solid ground of the heart. And isn't that exactly where we need to be right now? So on this Mula full moon, take time to connect with your root chakra, feel the ground under your feet, spend time in a garden or an enchanted and magical place where you feel connected to our beautiful Mother Earth. Be gentle with yourself if deep, painful wounds rise to the surface, and know that through the transformative power of the full moon in Mula, you can reset old patterns and reclaim your beautiful power. And what a perfect day, what a perfect segue for my guest, Hillary Raimo, well-known radio talk show host, award-winning author, intuitive visionary, photographer, artist, consciousness facilitator, and a woman who shoots from the hip. She speaks the truth in a time when we sorely need it. Can I say this, Benny? No false news here. It's great to have you on the show, Hillary.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hi, guys. Oh, that was great. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm so honored.
It's exciting. It's really, really fun. I want to tell the listening audience and show to the live YouTube people your new book, The Hillary Raimo Show Transcripts, Conversations on Technology, Time Travel, ETs, 911, and Consciousness. And here's the book. And we're going to talk about that and many, many things that are on your heart and mind today, Hillary. So to start out with, can you briefly just sort of introduce yourself and let my listening audience know who you are?
Oh, well, sure.
Briefly. And I realize that's a huge question, but just to lay a little bit of
just
platform.
serve it up there, Loretta.
Yeah,
just
serve it up. But to lay a little platform so that they know who they're listening to.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure. Well, I have been in what I consider alternative radio for about 13 plus years. I started in 2005 on terrestrial AM radio here in upstate New York and moved into the online presence shortly after, and the rest is history as far as my radio career goes. And it was probably one of the best runs and experiences I've ever had. I come from a background in business, psychology, and insurance and real estate. And I also have a background in healing arts. I have a Reiki Master certification in Nasui and Karuna. I'm a non-denominational minister. I've graduated from Lynn Andrews Mystery School many, many, many years ago. And I have always been a seeker of truth and light and beauty. And I moved into embracing my artwork full-time about 5 years ago. And today I do it full-time. I run our local art association here near Albany, New York, and I just don't know what else to say. I'm a mom. I have lived a very full life. I've traveled the world. I've seen a lot of fabulous, wonderful things, and the conversations that I've had over the 13 years I was on the air were probably my true spiritual awakening. Can you imagine having one conversation a week? And I know you can relate, you guys, because you're on radio and you do this. But being able to reach out and engage with pretty much whoever I wanted over that time frame was not only a privilege, but it was an act of power in many ways. And it was also opened up my mind and my consciousness to many things. So the topics varied from healing and health and alternative things, because back then, early 2000s, we were having kind of a renaissance, if you will, in the healing arts, and we were beginning to open and embrace these new terms, these new things. Reiki was just kind of starting to become a household name, and people were just really starting to find their way to certain arts and energy and auras and chakras, and all of these fabulous things were starting to come out onto the mainstream. And I was really glad to be a part of that. So who am I? Well, I'm a woman on a journey just like everybody else, and I'm nothing special. But at the same time, I've had extraordinary experiences that have led me to be a little wise about a thing or two. So that's me in a nutshell. Does that do it?
Yeah, that's a great introduction. And I do understand what you're saying. Having the opportunity to talk to these people every week, I also feel like I'm in my training ground. It expands your consciousness. It brings things to your awareness that you may or may not have done in the first place or gone there, right? So it's part of that opening of the path. And of course, obviously your voice, you're a voice in the wilderness coming out and saying what needs to be said. What prompted you to start your radio show? Because I, like you, I also have trouble answering that question. Like, who are you? What are you doing? You know, because it's a lot of stuff, right? That goes into the making of who we are.
Yeah.
But what really prompted you to start your radio show?
Well, it's a great question, because what would make a woman go on that journey, right? Well, I was studying with Lynn Andrews back then in the early 2000s, and I had chosen her as my spiritual teacher at the time. And I really liked how she presented a more modern version of shamanism and how energy works, and I really enjoyed my time with her. And she had told me at the end of the time that I worked with her to go read David Icke's books. And I said, David Icke? Who's David Icke? So I found him, of course, and then I was appalled that she had told me to go read him. I couldn't believe it. I sat here with my first book. Of course, I went out like a good student does, and I bought all his books that were available at the time, opened up the first one, and I couldn't believe what I was getting into. Mm-hmm. And I did it anyway because as a diligent, kind of assignment sort of thing. I took it as a sacred kind of assignment. And so I went into his books, and I got such a crack in my psyche, if you will, that just opened me up to the realities of some of the darker things that exist in this world. And at first, I couldn't believe it. But because of the person who had told me to go read it, I did believe it, and I went into the information. And I started to read his source books as well. I started to order the books that he was referring to, and I read through those. So I spent probably about 2 or 3 years going through the material, went and saw him speak up at Mount Shasta with a friend of mine who recently passed away this past year. And, this was way back before he was really popular. Now he sells out venues all over the place. You can't get very close to him. You can't really have a conversation as easy as you could with him when I did. But there was probably maybe 40 people at this venue to listen to him speak. But he went on for 8 hours, took a 15-minute break. Such a charismatic, charming, knowledgeable speaker that it was really easy for people to listen and take in the information in the way that he presented it. I didn't agree with everything he presented, but there was a lot of really good material that he did. Now, then what happened after I had this awakening, which happens to a lot of people when you start to find out alternative information that goes against what you've been told your whole life, you kind of have a moment, right? Mm-hmm. And that moment for me was, oh my gosh, I have to tell everybody. So that moment for me was the beginning of the decision to do a radio show. And interestingly enough, I had been asked to be a guest on a radio show at the time before I began, and I just loved it so much. It was fun. It was fun to have a conversation. And so that was it, and the rest is history. And I went over, I did about 4 shows with David over the course of the next 5 years from that. And so that was really powerful for me, because as somebody who had read very well through his work, it was really easy for me to have a conversation with him because I knew his material so well. And I noticed that a lot of times in radio, sometimes your host will get, a list of questions from the publicist, or they don't read the book, or they're not, you're just going to going to throw it to the wind and do a great show, and it can be great. But when you know the material and you know it well, it's even better, because then you can start to look around the world at that particular time, and I was asking him questions about things that were going on in the world. He was very capable of being able to bring in what that meant. And so my listeners really enjoyed our shows. We had a really great time. They were some of my most highly listened to programs at that time. And David was really wonderful as a guest, and he made the hour go by very fast. So I felt like the information was really relevant to a lot of things. And the reason I chose his interview for my book as the first chapter was because really that's where it started. Mm-hmm. David Icke started that fire. You talked about Pele and the volcano rising and all the magma coming up and all the things coming into our experience through these retrogrades. Well, let me say this. If you didn't know it was retrograde, you'd go about your business and you'd have a normal life and you wouldn't even know anything was going on. Sometimes I think when people, give you a piece of information, it taints and changes our perspective. Yes? Information is so powerful. And it has the ability to make or break your experience, your day, your mood, your life, right? And so we really have to take information in as a sacred offering and take a look at it and what it means to us. I've followed astrology for years and years. I mean, 25 plus years, I started to really align myself to astrological events. And over the years, I've worked with different astrologers, and I've followed different people's works and stuff. And today, at this point, yeah, I go to spaceweather.com, and I take a look at more of the logical, more placements of the constellations and the information and the events and stuff, because I really do believe that they are important and that everything is connected. Nature's connected, we're connected, animals are connected, all of this stuff. There is a very real unseen element to life. So astrology is a really wonderful way to do that. So a lot of my shows were picked according to the astrology happening, at that particular month, or what something was going on. So I'm looking forward. I have a book 2 and a book 3 coming out, and I go more into the astrological healing aspects in my second book. And then my third book is going to be a compilation of the 9 shows over 9 years through 2012 that I did with Barbara Hand-Clow. Mm-hmm. So this is all really relevant, and I'm really glad we're talking about it today.
Mm-hmm. I am, I just want to comment, because I too have gone through that. What happens when you start to be exposed to information that is so either heavy, dark, it's like, wow, there really is evil in the world, right? And coming from my Pollyanna life, in Eastern Oregon, right? I'm a small town girl coming into the world and saying, well, what happens when what is out actually happening comes up against my belief system, which is apparently fairly rigid. And I think that your conversations are bringing us into a point where we're able to take a look at this, because I think dialogue around it is important in order to help move us forward. How did you choose? You only have 20 conversations in this book. You have, goodness, over 700 hours of recordings, and possibly even more than that. And how did you choose what goes into this book? Why is it important for us to read this now?
Oh, my gosh. Well, it was a very difficult task because I've had some amazing people on the air. In fact, some of them I've become good friends with over the years. And so how did I choose the 20 conversations in this book? Well, carefully, first of all. Second of all, I took a look at the progression of the times. I pay close attention to the headlines. I pay close attention to what the spiel is. But I pay attention in a much different way than most people. During the campaign, for example, when Donald Trump was running against Hillary Clinton, I was writing a book proposal for the 9 Dots Prize for Cambridge University. And I had my perspective on the question, first of all, that we all had to write a book proposal on was, how do modern day technologies make politics impossible? And I thought that was a really great question, and I dove right in. And I took the perspective of alternative media. So coming from terrestrial and online radio, I have a very good perspective of how both work. And when I did go to see Donald Trump speak when he came to Albany, New York, I went down just to be an observer. I wanted to see if what people were saying in the news and in print and all over was actually true and what he was speaking. And when he went on Alex Jones' show, I really believe that that's when the turning point hit. I don't believe so much that it was Russian collusion on Facebook that got him. I believe that there were tactics used as marketing styles on social media platform in general, not just Facebook, that was targeting people to sway opinion. And we have to remember that when Obama was in office, he signed into law making it legal for propaganda to be used on American citizens. You can look that up. So when that happened, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, I'm sure they all had a field day, and they all went out and said, yippee, we can all do this and legally, and we can affect everybody's head, right? Well, we were all swayed in certain ways, in certain positions, but what is being ignored now, even today, is the fact that, we had millions of listeners that subscribe to alternative media. Now, when I say alternative media, I'm talking about the many, many different programs that you have on the air, online, that talk about kind of what David Icke talked about at the beginning, you know, these conspiratorial type subjects. So when I chose these 20 conversations, I took a look at what's going on today. Well, we had Bitcoin rise out of something, right? A lot of people made a lot of money. And we have technology changing. We have digital aspects happening all the time that should raise concern. You know, our privacy is really just becoming a myth. We have people taking on daily digital, you know, lives and personas, and our work is connected to the internet. Everything is becoming transferred, I believe, from, you know, the reality, real life, to a digital virtual world. The digital age is what I call it. So these 20 conversations, I really wanted to make a statement about the hindsight value of the many topics that we're all facing today. For example, technology, data privacy, breaches, how technology has ruled and shaped our life, the realities of certain technologies that many people still don't know exist or don't believe. So I sat down with the material and I said, well, let me take a look at who I really think brings to the reader a really good hindsight value into modern day today topics that we're all opinionated about and we're all swimming through together. So that's how I chose these conversations, and I sprinkled in some positive, beautiful, loving conversations to help balance that, because so often we talk about information being dark or heavy. Well, information is just neutral. It's how we meet it, or how we see it, or how we engage with it that gives it a taint. So when I see something really bad happening online, the first thing I do is go, let's take a look a little deeper. Because I never take anything at surface value, especially when it comes to mainstream media. Mainstream media has a long, long history of being biased, being owned by different corporate interests. It's so tangled. It's like corporations in general. It's so tangled into the platform of reality that keeps what we see as a collective platform in place. So alternative media offers these alternative perspectives to the realities of things, and I believe it was becoming so powerful with millions and millions of listeners taking it in the information that it was exploited and used by, for example, the Trump campaign. Roger Stone came in and booked Trump on Alex Jones. You'd never see a presidential candidate go on any alternative media platform that I've ever seen. Have you?
No.
So, you know, when this happened, I said, this has got to be important. And then it was done. And then he spoke the conspiratorial talk through his entire campaign. So I was making note of all this as I was writing the proposal and watching it very clearly for both candidates, for Hillary and for Trump. And so I thought it was really interesting how that progressed. And I said, there's manipulation going on right here. And who's being manipulated? The public, the world. And these people have all the money in the world and all the influence in the world to be able to pull it off. I mean, if you look at a newspaper in one area published by the same newspaper in another area, your headlines can sometimes be different or be tainted towards a political agenda depending on the demographics within the areas that you're in. So how do you really know the information coming to you out of anywhere is pure and unbiased and undiluted? You just don't know. So you have to become your own advocate for researching into facts and things and all of this sort. And the best way to do that is to be neutral. And it's really hard for people to do in today's climate because everybody is being offered all of these social dramas that you have to choose a side. And then you have to get your emotional energy entangled in it. And then you're expected to stand up and rah, 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 right? Some things do require that, but not everything. So we have to pick and choose. Like I picked and chose these conversations because the information in these conversations, even though they happened years ago, bring a quality of hindsight value into the topics that we don't hear today because it's being censored. I believe right now this country is probably more censored than it's ever been, and our leadership is very knowledgeable in the production aspect of things. And in the production of things, there is always an opinion or an intention lifted up to be presented, and it's a sell. They have to sell it to you. And how do they sell it to you? Well, they sell it to you through the emotional impact first. You know, if you can get a crowd angry, you have influence. If you can get a crowd to calm down, you have influence. If you can get a crowd to vote a certain way or boycott something, you have influence. We talk about influencers today being social media, Instagram people who take lots of selfies and pictures and, you know, scantily clad women and, oh my God, they're so famous. They have 10 million views and 10 million likes. It's a facade. It's a scam. You are being trained to accept social validation as confirmation of your value, and it's a lie. And that's why I chose to publish this book now instead of waiting, because, you know, I had an offer to wait 2 years to put it out from a big publishing house, and I turned them down because I thought waiting 2 years wouldn't do this work proper justice, because right now these things are so important and everybody needs some kind of, I don't know, maybe a blanket to put on to wrap their heart up and say, you know what, this is happening, and yes, we can be angry, we can feel things about it, but let's put it in perspective with the true progression of what's really going on. Because I noticed a few years back, we were starting to see in mainstream awareness, for example, commercials. They even had one during one of the Super Bowls, which is when most millions and zillions of listeners are watching, right? And they were making fun of conspiracy, mocking the word, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. I thought that was interesting because alternative media brought conspiracy to the table. And there were many, many very talented and great investigative reporters doing a lot of work on some very real subjects, like Jim Marrs, for example, who's in my book, who passed away recently. But he was a New York Times best-selling investigative journalist. And he started to talk about UFOs and ETs, and he started to bring this information into his writings. And people really loved it and appreciated it because he was probably one of the bigger ones to come out on the platform and admit that there's truth to some of this stuff. But, you know, first thing you do when you get somebody out there who's talking about these things that are so shocking to our everyday awareness is you discredit them, or you shame them, or you mock them. And so, you know, so begins the great shaming, the great credibility campaign to take people down so that people won't listen. And I think what happened with alternative media, because we had such huge audiences, millions of people all over the world were listening, still are to some degree, but not the same way it was before, I don't think. And so we had this huge population of people ingesting this information, making it become, you know, integrated into their daily lives experiences. But at the same time, you have a control system on the planet who has to keep order and has to keep you buying things and keep the machine going. So how do you do that if people start to have their consciousness open to new ways and new being and new thinking and all of this newness that was starting to leak into consciousness all over the world? You have to cut it down. So I think what happened really is that a lot of important leadership type started to take in a way of how can we just cut this off. And so you started to see a marketing influence going on about knocking people down who believe in conspiracy. It was the same thing that they did back in the 1950s and 60s with people who believed in UFOs. Oh, you're a UFO nut. You're one of those. Where's your tinfoil hat? Nothing cuts things out like mocking, discrediting, insulting, and making it, you know, critiquing that kind of thing where it makes it awkward or weird for people to talk about it even. So I'm getting off your question here, but the whole point of this is that information has a really powerful impact, but if you're not open to letting it in so that you can move it around and take a look at it critically, then you're probably going to take a side or you're going to shut it off and you're just not going to let it in. And I think that's what's happened. But I have a whole theory on this, and I did write a whole book proposal. I didn't win the contest, but I do have it ready to go, and I think I might publish it eventually.
I think it sounds great. Well, this is Loretta Brown. My guest today is Hillary Raimo, and she is just a beautiful voice. We're talking about her book, The Hillary Raimo Show Transcripts, and here it is. We're going to take a break, and we may open the lines when we come back, so don't go away. And yeah, the number 425-373-5527 or 1-888-298-5569. We'll be right back.
Take a seat right over there, sat on the stairs, stay or leave. The cabinets are bare and I'm unaware of just how we got into this mess. Got so aggressive. I know we meant I'll get into.
Did you know that Reiki healing can be done at a distance? It's true. So let Reiki Oasis focus powerful energy to help relieve your stress, grief, sadness, anger, and so much more. Convenient, personalized treatments at a distance can increase lightness of being. During your appointment, find a quiet place to lie down or sit to receive healing energies. If you want help with your dis-ease, visit ReikiOasis.com. Harness life's energy. Visit ReikiOasis.com today.
NHL star Matt Martin for American Humane.
Hi, I'm Matt Martin, and in all my years of playing professional hockey, I've gotten my share of bruises and injuries. But for many who really put their lives on the line every day, it's not always the injuries you can see that hurt the most. I'm talking about our veterans. Every single day, 184 veterans are diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, and tragically, 20 take their own lives. When medications and therapy don't help, professionally trained service dogs can. American Humane, serving the U.S. military for over 100 years, has put together a free guide to help veterans obtain these life-saving service animals. If you are a veteran or know a veteran struggling with PTS, please go to AmericanHumane.org for this free, downloadable resource. Let's give our veterans the help they need to win their battle.
For more information, visit AmericanHumane.org.
Having trouble picking up the Alternative Talk 1150 signal? Well, whether you live in Portugal or Puyallup, Tasmania or Tacoma, India or Issaquah, you can get Alternative Talk 1150 programming streamed live on your computer via our website, 1150kknw.com. It's true, just visit 1150kknw.com and click on the Listen Live button. Make sure you have an audio player installed that will play streaming MP3 audio such as Winamp, iTunes, or current versions of Real Player or Windows Player. Visit our website for more details. Remember, that's 1150kknw.com.
Let angels and Reiki and the search for mystical knowledge become a regular part of your routine Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. Loretta Brown, owner of Reiki Oasis, Reiki Master Teacher, an angel messenger, and healing musician, all wrapped into one as she uses her voice to share knowledge of great mysteries, energetic laws, and messages of love from the divine. Join her and her show every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. to open your heart and heal your soul. Visit ReikiOasis.com for more information about her show.
Radio with no added hormones or preservatives. All natural alternative talk, 1150 a.m.
Why don't you pull me close? Why don't you come on over? I can't just let you go. Oh, baby. Why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little.
I love that. Great choice. Baby, why don't you meet me in the middle? I know. We're talking about difficult things or things. I don't actually think of them as difficult. I think that what's going on in the world is it's best for us to take a look at it, have a dialogue, and then remain open rather than getting so polarized, which is happening to all of us. Anyway, this is Loretta Brown. Welcome back to the original Loretta Brown Show. My guest today is the amazing Hillary Raimo, who was on the radio for 13 years. And we've got her new book, The Hillary Raimo Show Transcripts, Conversations on Technology, Time Travel, ETs, 911, and Consciousness. The lines are open if you want to call in with a question for Hillary. Please call 425-373-5527 or 1-888-298-5569, and you'll be on the air with us. We were talking about how alternative media really helped Donald Trump get elected, and currently sort of what's going on in the world of radio and media. You know, Hillary, you were on the radio for 13 years, and I understand that you've stopped your radio show now, and you've pulled like 95% of your content from YouTube. What has led you to the place where you've done this? What is it that we need to be aware of regarding the internet? our privacy and our exposure out there?
Censorship.
Okay.
That's easy. It's censorship. It's a popularity contest now. You can put the best thing out there, and if it doesn't support the established quo, then you have a problem. And it's just become so, I don't know, I just don't like the feel. I took my stuff off of YouTube for a couple reasons. They recently took away, a lot of people are content producers on the platform, and they make a lot of money doing it. And so it was a stream of income for me for a while. But then I had a bad experience with somebody who came in and duplicated my shows and put them on their own YouTube channel. And, they were getting tens of thousands of views, and they were making lots of money off of my content. They didn't give me anything for it. So I was competing with my own shows on YouTube. So I had my channel, whose numbers were lower, and then I would see my shows on another platform making lots of money for whoever put them up there, and I just didn't agree with that. I didn't agree with how that was set up. I don't think it's fair that somebody else can come in and take your work and then get paid for your hard work and not give you anything for it. I mean, because at the end of the day, this is my income, this is my living, this is what I do. I don't have a day job. I do this full time. So this is something that I felt very strongly about. So when I wrote the book, I thought, this is really great, because reading is not the same thing as listening to a radio show. You listen to a radio show, you're listening to the voices, you're listening to the personality, you're listening to the ums and the mistakes that people make when they're talking. And you have to kind of stay really, really, present in order to really get the full effects. When you read the show transcripts in a book, it's much different. And so what I did was I released a few on my blog a year ago when I started to have this idea to do this. And the reader feedback was fantastic, and they really enjoyed reading the information where they could pause and they could read it, and they could, kind of digest it a little slower without the distractions. And I thought, what, this is really the way to go for me right now. This is my work. It's my legacy. It's my body. It's really something that I can gift to people and say, here, this comes directly from me. And all of my fabulous guests over the years, whose energy and time and efforts also contribute to the greatness of this book. So when you read and you go through and you just experience different. So I'm really happy with it. So I'm going to take all of my archives for the most part and create a series of books. Maybe not for the whole 700 plus hours. But I think a theme is good. So my next one is going to be all my psychic and healing and alternative health shows. So I'm really excited about that, because, if you know anything about what's going on Facebook right now, especially, they are deleting a lot of alternative health pages with sometimes millions of followers, thousands of followers. It doesn't really matter so much about the number as it does the information. And I think that's kind of a corporate takeover type thing, where they're deleting information that is helping people escape the brainwashing and the programming that's gone on for years and years about the state of our health and our bodies. And so now that this book has come out, and we have some pretty clear 20 conversations on the rise of how we got to where we are, now I'm going to publish a book on the health of transcript shows that have to do with, remembering how real connected you really are to your body and why it matters. And these people were on the frontier of some of these ideas over the early 2000, mid-2000 years. And I think it's important to bring that again to the forefront, where we have to take another look and say, well, how did we get here so that we're so dependent on pharmaceuticals, and we're so dependent on big corporate money and how they invade our space and our bodies this way? And I'm going to take a stand with that. I don't know how many conversations I'll put in it, but I'm going to cherry pick, just like I did this one, the voices that I felt were the most discerning in bringing that information to the forefront.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to that book and the information that's contained therein. And just to state the obvious, the reason that they're taking down these health and alternative healing, I hesitate to use that word on the radio, but sites has to do with us finding our way into a more self-empowered position. It's kind of a question.
Oh.
but not really. Right.
It's a great starter for conversation at the dinner table, guys. If you're ever in the mood to have a really great conversation, pick up this book, open it up to a random page, and just make it a conversation starter. It's going to be fabulous.
Yeah,
you can
thanks.
write to me and tell me how great it is.
Yeah, and I was telling Hillary off the air that, I was taking her book and just kind of flipping and opening it like a tarot book or an angel book, going, okay, what's it going to say to me today, right?
Yeah.
And it really works. It activates you in some deep, deep way, and we do need to have these dialogues not only with ourselves but with each other if we're going to make it forward into what we're headed toward.
Yeah.
I have so many questions. I'm like, where should I go from here? The internet is one of these things where I guess I want to go toward Bitcoin is what they're directing me toward. You've studied Bitcoin since, I don't know, 2014 or something?
Yes.
What can you tell us about Bitcoin? Because and cryptocurrency, this is on the edge here, and many people are getting involved in it, and a lot of people go, what is that?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a big topic. Well, I started to study it in 2014. I had done a show with the chief technologist, the head technologist of Alibaba, Stuart Trusty, and his interview is in my book. And he had shown me how to get a mining contract and how to follow. I'd put 3 cents into it back in 2014, just to monitor the market and to see what it was all about, because I didn't know anything about it then either, really. And I'm really glad I did, because what I observed over the course of time was something that has a really special potential. Now, a lot of people are going to get mad at me for saying that. I've lost friends over this, okay? Because it's like talking about Trump. It's a division type separation conversation right from the start. Either people hate it, don't want anything to do with it, they think it's just another new control scheme, it's fake money. Well, if you think about it, a dollar bill is just a piece of paper with ink on it. So it's fake money too. It's just we've given a value to it, and we've orchestrated an infrastructure that supports it to the point where it becomes what we use to exchange for goods and services. Bitcoin in its pure form really is an opportunity to get out of the world banking system. So right there you have a problem. The problem being the big banks are not going to just let you come in and take over the world banking system because it works, right? Well, so you have countries like China, you have countries like North Korea. They've all developed really high-level cryptocurrency infrastructures that are a big threat to a lot of old school banking systems that are very entrenched and very ingrained and aren't going to let go of that control and money very easily. So when you have people like Stuart, who's very extremely knowledgeable, extremely capable of going in and doing these things and creating companies like worldbit.com, I was on the beginning board of that to give my input onto how I saw things going with it. And it was a really interesting learning experience. I also took a course at the University of Nicosia, which is located in Crete, over the winter this past year. It's a beginner course on cryptocurrencies to understand Bitcoin and the history of it. It's free for people to take so they can educate themselves. And they're the first university in the world to offer a master's program in it. So I became very interested in that, and I'm going to probably participate and get my master's through that, because I really think what we're looking at is a completely new infrastructure. Now, blockchain, mind you, is the real gold treasure in this, because blockchain is a form of technology that anything can use for anything that's ledgered. So if you think about anything that's ledgered, like Facebook would be a perfect example. Your posts are ledgered. Your posts are saved in the never-ending etheric landmine of thoughts and concepts or whatever you produce through your social media account. That could be ledgered. So if you applied blockchain technology to an idea like Facebook, you would have a foolproof way of keeping track of everything. If you were to use blockchain as an accountant, it would be a foolproof way of keeping track of everything. The problem is that people who use these, do corrupt things and steal and aren't good people, then it becomes kind of like, oh, you mean you're going to make me accountable for my mistakes? I don't want that. And that ends my stream of money. So you have a lot of really interesting concepts that come up under cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. You have the alternative media conspiracy world who thinks it's here to take over the world. It's part of the New World Order, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have big banks who just laugh at it, mock it. Again, we go back to what I talked about earlier. If you want to get rid of something, the easiest way to do it is to bring mockery, shame, and discredit. So the minute the market fell back early this year, you could put $2,000 into the market and come out with $6,000. It was beginning to make people a lot of money, and people that weren't going through the usual vetting that the banks do. And if anybody's tried to open an account at a regular bank within the last few years, you know that the vetting is much different than it was years and years ago. They have a completely different way of keeping track of how people spend money, where the money goes, why, where, what, when. And the government is much more invasive into it than they've ever been. So when they started to see the amount of people who were making large amounts of money from this, they knew they had a problem and they had to clamp it down, because the last thing they want to do is give financial freedom to everyone, right? Mm-hmm. That just creates a whole nother ball game, and it shifts the power structure legitimately. And shifting the power structure legitimately for the people is not in the cards for the way our world is run today. They don't want the people empowered. They want the people distracted. They want the people really stuck in a superficial kind of model where and the New Age industry has done a lot to aid in this. I'm disappointed to say, but it's true. Yeah. Because when you can't have a conversation about the full spectrum of the human experience, you have a problem. Because what happens is people start to say, oh, well, you're talking about that, and that's dark and yucky, and you're not a happy person, and you must be of the dark, and you're not a good, they go on and on with this stuff. And I said, oh, my God, it's so well implemented into the minds of people who have done this work that they really can't integrate the shadow. Shadow healing, anybody who's a healer worth their weight knows that shadow healing is where it's at. Shadow healing is about integrating the dark aspects, not necessarily good or bad, just the darker aspects that we deem unworthy of our love. So if you think there's something wrong with you because you go in and you watch the news and you get all excited and you want to go talk about it, well, maybe that's the light pushing you to add your light to what's happening. And then you'll always have a group of people who judge that or think, there's something wrong with you. I've had people project that onto me too, and I just kind of laugh at it because it's like, well, this is my calling, and who are you to tell me not? So if your calling is, and you're able to go into the harder concepts, the harder energies, it's just more challenging, you really better know how to stay centered and grounded. And that is the real deterrent to your ability to be able to be successful in mining the information. So cryptocurrency is kind of the same thing. Like, it's about mining, it's about computer skills, it's about infrastructure that's completely digital. While everything else we do is pretty much digital. Most people's social lives are digital. Most people find some kind of validation in their digital connections. So we're really shifted to a new digital age. And this is the first time in human history when the level of technology has been this high. So navigating it is really an interesting thing. But cryptocurrency and Bitcoin has not gone away, but they have definitely capped it. They have definitely gone, they being the big banks, have definitely gone in and worked the laws, and they have worked with the IRS to go in and to really cap on who's making money on this, because they don't want people with that frame of mind thinking, well, we can be free. If I want to give you money, I can just give you money. You can give me money. I don't have to go through a bank or a third-party payment system. That's really what it is all about. And the core concept of Bitcoin was freeing people financially and creating a new financial structure that doesn't do as much damage as the current structure and is more sustainable for the entire planet.
Wow. So we are like down to the last minute, right? And this is Loretta Brown. My guest today is Hillary Raimo. The Hillary Raimo Show transcripts. Get it, read it. Hillary, you've got like 15 seconds. Where do people find you? And a last word.
Well, they can find me on my website. It's the easiest place, hillaryraimo.com. It's Raimo. buy the book, read it. Let me know what you think, please. My whole hope for this is to start the conversations that we need to start having to heal the divide and the separation that our current social structure is creating more and more every day by judgment and criticism and anger. Read this book, go into the conversations, pick your favorite person that you love to talk to, and make it something really special. And then send me an email and let me know how it goes, because I really love hearing reader feedback, and I will respond.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
I loved it. Thank you so much. And to my listening audience, have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you next time.
The views expressed